Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network. This is my weekly show where my guests and I each pick a film related in some shape or form. And hopefully, by the end of this episode, you'll have two films to go check out. And joining me is my monthly guest. It is Jeff. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, I'm back. Thank you for having me.
And of course, and we're doing a bit of double dose of Tom Hanks, late 90s into early 2000s era. Tom Hanks with Castaway and You've Got Mail. So let's get started with 2000's Castaway. A FedEx executive undergoes a physical and emotional transformation after crash landing on a deserted island. And this is directed by Robert Zemeckis, which Robert Zemeckis is such an interesting director because he's made some amazing films that have certainly been such a big part of pop culture for sure. And then I feel like after 2000, it's been a very interesting ride for him as a filmmaker because I kind
Yeah,
of feel
I
like this is his last like consistently loved movie that he released, and he's done some very interesting places since then.
yeah, he really hasn't. I mean, because I'm looking back at his stuff right now, and I'm like, I'm not seeing anything past Castaway that I'm like, yeah, I would watch that again.
Because he got in that weird era of everything is motion capture, CGI land with like Beowulf and A Christmas Carol. And like I know
Hmm.
Flight got some awards attention, but not like a ton. And
Hmm.
honestly, I'm looking at all of these and I think like Allied's a really solid movie and I really like it, but the streak of the witches and like Pinocchio
Yeah,
not really doing it for me. And I appreciated here a lot more than I like actually liked here, but here 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 with Castaway from 2000, Jeff, what are your general thoughts on Castaway?
I I love Castaway. Like it never has. I mean, no matter how many times I watch it, it's never made me like stop loving it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like every time I watch it, I'm always like, I always almost kind of forget what happens when he's
Mhm.
on the island. And then obviously I know what happens, but like I forget like smaller details because there's so much that he like has to learn how to do when he's on the
Yeah.
island and what he has to overcome. And so I kind of forget some of those things. But yeah, it's just such a great movie. And it's such a good acting piece for
Mhm.
Tom Hanks because he just kills it in this. He's always, I mean, he's always so good, but this he's just so good.
And it was a very interesting thing for Tom Hanks too, because I think this was the last performance that he got like tons of awards attention
Hmm.
all the way up until he finally got some with the Mr. Rogers movie that he did in that supporting role and didn't wind up winning the Oscar because he lost to Brad Pitt for Once Upon a
Hmm.
Time in Hollywood, which also is like I'm pretty sure that Cliff was a main character in that movie, but that's a whole other conversation. But this, like, if you get somebody like Tom Hanks to be in a movie like this, he's gonna make the most of it, and he's so great in this because he's able to balance like in that because this is a very obvious like three-part movie because
Hmm.
you have like the setup of his life before he gets there, and then like the big chunk of it's him on this island, which even is kind of like split in half with him initially being there, and then that huge time jump that winds up
Hmm.
happening, and then he comes home and has to adjust to all of that. But Tom Hanks is so great in each of these parts. Like that first part, you know, he has a great relationship. I love his connection with Helen Hunt's character, but like he's also like a little abrasive. He's a little controlling. And I think
Hmm.
that's what makes him really work as this executive who's like everything needs to be on time. And then he gets so much empathy from you when he's on this island, and like you want to cheer for him when he's like freaking out when he finally makes fire, and he just brings this energy. His performance is infectious throughout this
Yeah.
whole entire film, and he makes you feel like you love this volleyball too.
Yeah, I was
Like,
gonna say you've got to get some award recognition when you start like talking to a volleyball. So
and like you have a whole entire,
and yeah, and you think it's believable that the volleyball is actually there talking to him back.
yeah, and it's so convincing, and then just the emotion of it all. And like the whole Wilson scene out in the water is devastating because he makes you feel like he
Hmm.
lost his best friend, which, to be frank, it was his best friend because it's all he had on this island. And even just like certain moments, like that scene where he does his own oral surgery gets me every time because I
Yeah,
I have had some not fun experiences at the dentist, and that one just like grabs you. I think Robert Zemeckis really stands out in this film during the crash sequence because that
yeah,
sequence is so intense, so well staged. It's thrilling from start to finish. I'm like, this is some grade A direction right here. And it's a terrifying experience being involved in that whole part of the film.
yeah. I remember when I was a kid and I watched the movie for the first time. I don't know why I was a kid watching this movie, but I was. And that crash scene just scared me so much that I had to stop watching. I was watching it with my parents. I had to like go away and I had to come back to it like way later after that scene was
Mhm.
like over, like completely over.
Well, and there's a couple other moments like when he finds that corpse, like
Hmm.
kind of
Also scared
scary.
me.
Yeah. And the when he's first rowing out, and the way that Zemeckis, and then I just want to give some credit to the cinematographer here, Dom Burgess, the way they shoot those waves, and you're terrified because like you feel like those waves are going to be crashing on you, and how they capture the underwater part of him swirling in the water and hitting that coral, like
Hmm.
you feel like you hit that coral too, and you want to scream out in pain too. I just feel like this film is so impeccably directed. I don't think Zemeckis got any attention for like director for this film. I don't think
Yeah,
this
I don't
was
remember.
yeah, this was Ridley Scott year for Gladiator, and then I'm pretty sure Soderbergh got nominated for like two different movies um for this year too. But all of that really works, and there's so many key moments on this island, and just like even just the body transformation, because like this is where Tom Hanks was starting to really lean into, like he was starting to get into like middle age, and he has a bit of a gut, and
Hmm.
he's dad bodding it. But then what he goes through physically when they introduce him, when they do that time jump, and it was like, holy crap, Tom Hanks. And
Yeah.
it's like, was all that hair real? Like the beard and his wig and everything. But like he just really sold the physicality of like this man's been stuck on this island for years. And that's
Hmm.
wild. I think a big question for you, Jeff, that I really want to ask: how do you feel about the last act of this movie with him coming home?
So, in what regard?
Well, I guess because obviously most people expected to go into this movie being like about Castaway. It's going to be him on an island the whole time. But I think it's very interesting, and it was a bold choice to be like, oh no, like there's a whole last act of him coming home and having to face the reality. Because you would think in most movies, them getting saved is like the big happy ending, and you
Right.
can leave it there. But that's not Castaway. So I guess like
Yeah.
do you like that they went that extra step and delivered that third act?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that's actually the best part of the movie in some ways is that like because when you see a lot of stories that are person is, lost at sea and they get captured and they are reunited with their long lost love and everything's happy and they've been
Hmm.
waiting for him the whole time. It subverts that narrative, and that's not what happens, because he was gone for what, 4 years, right?
4 or 5 years, something like that.
Like,
Yeah.
he was gone for 4 years. All these people thought he was dead. Like, and to show that life moves on without you in those kinds of situations is important to show, because because what did he think was going to happen when he came home? This woman was just going to be like, I'm never taking another lover again, blah blah blah. Like,
Mhm.
no, she's going to move on with her life.
He arrives at the house and it's just full of cats, and she's like, I shunned love because I lost you. Because like it's the kind of thing that you would expect from like a big Hollywood kind of film like this. But like
Hmm.
that's what makes Castaway special, is that it does give you that sobering return of like, dude, how would anybody not think you were dead? You're gone for
Yeah.
4 years. And that that scene when like he goes to see her at the house, and there's so much emotion there. There's so much said and unsaid in that sequence, and it's compelling, it's interesting, it's dynamic. And I think that's a really impressive aspect of this film that really hits.
Hmm.
And I think without that, this just it would have been a very well made, very technically sound survival film. And
Yeah.
I think it would still get attention, but like I feel like that adds the extra depth, and especially even like that final scene, these
Hmm.
crossroads, and just that looming idea of what that means for him. I think this is a special film. And honestly, the last 25 years of Robert Zemeckis' career might not have come anywhere near the rest of his career. But Castaway, if it this is his last like great movie, it's a great movie. And
Yeah.
it's something that really stands out. And just from like the technical standpoint, but this film navigates some really interesting emotional elements of human existence and experience, and also making us realize how important human connection is, and like how devastating it can be just being in isolation for that long.
Hmm.
But Jeff,
Absolutely.
do you have any other thoughts on Castaway?
No, it's just a great film. I like it a lot. I don't see this being the last time I ever watch it, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely one that I enjoy coming back to. And it's a 2 hour and 23-minute film, and it
Doesn't
moves,
feel like it.
does not feel like it. And I feel like it's because they do such a great job of pacing each of the sections of the film to make it feel like it's moving well, and that it doesn't feel overbearing 2 hours and 23 minutes.
Mhm.
But let's shift to something completely different, which is a very like romantic kind of movie, Hollywood romance, and that is You've Got Mail. And this is from director Nora Ephron, and stars Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, the second of their like big romantic films from the 1990s. But you also like we'll get to it, but there's a lot of great supporting cast in this film as well. But this tells the story of book superstore magnate Joe Fox and an independent bookshop owner, Kathleen Kelly, fall in love in the anonymity of the internet, both blissfully unaware that he's trying to put her out of business. Now, if I have a quick question, have you seen The Shop Around the Corner?
No, I probably never will.
So, I actually, what's weird is I had just watched this like a month ago for the first time, and it's a Jimmy Stewart film, and it's basically the same idea of like this man and
Right.
woman don't like each other in real life, and they're pen pals, writing letters to each other. Obviously, this is I don't know about you, but every time they fired up the internet in this, and it was the whole AOL dial-up stuff, I'm just like, wow, this brings brings back some memories.
Yeah.
But Jeff, what are your general thoughts on You've Got Mail?
So this was my third or fourth time watching it,
Okay.
and I really, really like Sleepless in Seattle, but I do not like this movie.
Oh,
It's I
tell us
don't
why.
think it's as funny or as romantic as they're trying to make it seem.
Mhm.
Like I don't buy these two characters actually like falling for each other outside of their pen pal,
Mhm.
AIM instant messenger relationship. Like I don't buy it in the slightest. There's no way someone like Meg Ryan who hates this person this much would actually fall for this guy, no matter how charming Tom Hanks actually is.
Honestly, I don't think this film would work at all in any way, shape, or form if it weren't for Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
I think it works for the film. Like
Yeah.
I think they do have good connection, like chemistry
Mhm.
together. But that's because they've worked together and they put out an actually good movie with Sleepless in Seattle. That's why this movie. That's the only reason why this movie exists. If it
Yeah,
weren't for if it weren't for these two people, then I don't think this movie would work as well. But if it was any other two actors doing this, like or even just normal people, I just don't think it would work.
absolutely. And like this was my first time watching this. And I guess some of the things that I will say that I really appreciated, I appreciated Nora Ephron's presentation as a director. I feel like she captured a very specific, like refined look at the city, and it feels very like urban kind of directing, and there's some kind of warmth there because
Hmm.
we've certainly talked about directors like Woody Allen and such that have such a specific way of shooting the city and having
Yeah.
that passion. I feel like Nora Ephron has a very specific kind of like, I don't, what's the best way to put this, it's like this very adult, mature kind of refinedness to how she looks at the city. Everything looks very nice. This film looks very nice. I
Hmm.
think Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan both have a lot of charisma, and you know, I buy into them fighting with each other when they're fighting with each other. For
Oh
sure.
yeah, I buy that
and
as well. That I believe. That part I believe.
and they are having fun with it too, because you can tell, like you can tell Tom Hanks is having some fun being a jerk in this,
Hmm.
because for a decent chunk of the beginning of his career, like Tom Hanks was like nice guy everything, and
Hmm.
you can tell he's having some fun being a little bit curmudgeon,
Yeah.
being that way. This is a personal shout out, but like I love Dabney Coleman so much, and him playing Tom Hanks's dad, and just the disgustingness of just how gross this man is, to the point where he's like he acknowledges that his son and his partner break up and then asks, do you think she would be interested? I'm just like, only somebody like Dabney Coleman could make that work and just commit to that. And then like there's a ton of familiar faces. Like Dave Chappelle's randomly in this movie, which
Yeah.
is
I always forget Dave Chappelle is in this because he's just not being Dave Chappelle as I know him. So
like
I'm just like it's
you,
very awkward. Not awkward, but it's just weird.
it's weird. You could tell like he does have a comic relief element to his character, but it's not his sense of humor. It's
Yeah.
definitely like it's
It's
not
really
his.
weird.
And like yeah, like Steve Zahn just is like a puppy dog of a guy that just pops in every so often into the movie. And like
Playing exactly the character he is always playing in this time of the
yeah,
of his career. You know what I mean?
for
He like
sure.
I feel like this is not the first time we've seen him in a role like this, and it wasn't the last time we saw him in a role like
Mhm.
this. Like he just kind of pops in as like a side character,
Yeah.
playing like this like mopey kind of hipster before it was a
Hmm.
hipster type of guy.
Exactly. And I don't know what it is about Greg Kinnear. that makes him so hateable. But like he he I think is one of the most effortlessly unlikable actors in a good way. Like if you put him in a movie, he just has an air about him that you're just like, you're smug and I don't like you. And like that's exactly what he's supposed to be in this movie. And you're supposed to be like, why is Meg Ryan with him? And then
Yeah,
like and the film tries very hard to make you realize and make sure that you know that neither of their partners are good for them. Because like uh Posey is
yeah.
so amazing in everything and fully commits to any role she's given. And she's just like insufferable in this, where it's just like, I could never like be with somebody like
You
this.
you see those bits of her like her White Lotus character in this a little bit too. A
Yes,
little bit, just a little bit. Like you
a
start
little
seeing
bit.
like because it's around this time where she starts. That's just the character she just starts playing all the time. Is like this
Mhm.
like kind of like this like I don't want to say high society, but this like better than everyone type of like
There's
stuck
there's
up
a
chick.
a level of like socialite kind of
Yeah,
status that she has in a lot of things. Like Best in Show that was out around that time. Like her,
yeah.
her and her husband in that, they're the most insufferable characters in the
Hmm.
entire movie on purpose and perfectly so. And that's the thing. I feel like a lot of the harm that I got out of this is from the cast. Because like
Yeah.
it's very old school screwball rom-com setup. Like this
Hmm.
is very much like this is a concept they're going for.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It was a hard jump for me by the end to be like, I don't think the film did good enough job of making me buy the transition
Yeah.
of, because what this film is asking you to do is buy into a wonderful, lovely online relationship and absolutely hated, very tense dynamic fusing together and
Hmm.
building a bridge. And like, I feel like you have to spend your disbelief quite a bit to build that. And I feel like they were dragging it out way too long towards the end too, because they go into like this 20-minute section where they're like slowly getting to the point where like they
Yeah.
finally reveal that like, hey, it was me all along. Um
I also
I
going on that ending, and I'm gonna spoil it for everyone. I'm
Yeah.
apologize. But at that line that she says at the end, where she's like, you know, I kind of wanted it to be you. I'm like, no, you didn't. Like like where she says something like, I thought it would be you or something. Like, no, you did. You never
She
thought
said,
it was
I
gonna.
wanted it to be you.
Yeah, you
And I'm
never
like,
wanted it to be him. No, no way. I'm not buying that for a second.
I'll buy if she said, I've wanted it to be you since the past 5 days. Because like then
Yeah,
basically, like at some point they just decide, oh, we're gonna be charming together now. And
yeah,
and it's supposed to be like, okay, now we're supposed to buy this. Um, there's some wild decisions in this too, like the fact that he's bringing his aunt and his brother
hmm,
to bookstore because he has this weird family where his grandfather has a small child, like he's De Niro and Pacinoing it,
yeah,
80-year-old man with small children. And like I struggle to get past any of the cliches that make this movie possible, because this feels very much like nothing of this is really shocking. The one thing I will give this credit to is that, and this is also spoiling a piece of the film, but like her shop closes.
yeah,
And I respect that this film commits to like, this is part of the evolution of business, and for better or for worse. And I think it's really sad that her shop closes because obviously she was very passionate and brought a lot to it. But like there's a lot of small bookstores that I always used to like going to. It's just
Yeah.
Amazon in particular in this day and age. Amazon put out so many bookstores, and even like big chains got put out of business
Hmm.
because of Amazon. So like I appreciated that honesty of the story, but so much of the rest of this is just very by the numbers. And like I wasn't surprised, like this had, I think this had like a 60 something on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, this is like just enough charming enough for some people to be like, okay, everything is cliche and I know exactly where this is going, and I don't know if I 100% buy into it, but I like the cast. That
Yeah.
seemed to be like the most consistent thing. But I've certainly seen better. And Nora Ephron wrote When Harry Met Sally, which
Yeah.
is like peak. So like this just kind of feels like more retreading of a lot of other romantic films. And I'm not mad that I watched it, but like, will I watch this again? Probably not. I am looking forward to checking out Sleepless in Seattle because I haven't seen that one either.
Oh man, and then I was gonna say we should not for next month, but the month after that, we should put that on the list because I'd like to go back and rewatch that movie too.
I am putting it on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, do
You're
it
you're hearing it now, folks. Put it in the
for so
books.
for September. We're watching Sleepless in
Yep,
Seattle.
there you go. Well, because it was funny because this happened 2 months ago with Mikey's like, I feel like we have to do Naked Gun later in this summer. I'm like,
Hmm.
put it in the books now. So,
Yeah,
spoiler alert, in 2 episodes, Mike and I are going to be talking about the Naked Gun and Top Secret spoof movies. But Jeff, do you have any other thoughts that you want to throw out about You've Got Mail?
it's a perfectly fine movie, but I just if I don't have to watch it again, I'll be fine. I'm sure it'll come back up in my movie watching at some point, and I'm not gonna turn it off, but I'm not gonna go looking for it.
I agree with that assessment. Like there's plenty of other romantic films that I'd pick over this, even that Nora Ephron was involved in. So, you know,
And they're films that do this kind of thing better than
mhm.
this. There's just a
Like When
lot
Harry
of
Met
this
Sally.
that yeah, and honestly, I would maybe even like to go see like to watch Shop Around the Corner and see how it compares to this because I'm sure it's probably doing it a little better than this.
I feel like it's definite. I feel like the sensibilities of the story fit better in that old school kind of Hollywood comedy setup.
Yeah.
And, you know, this being like a 90s movie and being a ridiculous concept to begin with, I feel like they were having more fun with it and Shop Around the Corner because tonally it's going more for a romantic comedy feel. This didn't quite feel like a romantic comedy. It just felt like a romantic drama where,
Hmm.
they're like sending barbs back and forth with each other, which were occasionally funny.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. But Jeff, thank you as always for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Absolutely. Anytime.
And next month, Jeff and I are going to talk about a double dose of 2010s Bradley Cooper films that, were those kind of films that were like, oh, I remember that came out. Did you see it? No. And we're going to talk about Burnt and Limitless. And for next episode, which will be with Jess, my wife, we're going to be talking about The Black Cauldron and Fire and Ice. So some 80s fantasy animated films that are super weird and, have that like niche kind of following. But thank you all for listening. Make sure to make follow like, comment, and share on this episode. What's your favorite Nora Ephron romance? And Meg Ryan certainly had a lot of romantic comedies throughout the 80s into the 90s. What's your favorite? And why is it When Harry Met Sally? Um, just throwing it out there. And make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding, so many great shows with a lot of different interests that you can peruse through. And if you want to be part of the crew, whether as a guest on a show or making your own podcast, make sure to reach out to us on our website. And If you like our logo, check out HiFlyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.